My name is Danielle Morgan. I'm 51, and tonight, I'm sitting in a luxury suite in a hotel I built from a rubble, with my bare hands and a full heart, while across town, my family's inn is falling apart like a neglected dollhouse. But before I get into that, let me tell you something strange. You can love your family, give them everything, and still be the villain in their story. Before I can continue my story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I love imagining the map lighting up. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. My parents always wanted things to look perfect on the outside. Whispering Pines Inn, nestled in the snowy arms of Willow Creek, Vermont, was their pride and joy. My mom used to call it her fourth child, though she never made that joke when I was around. Growing up, our home felt like a Norman Rockwell painting. Polished wood floors, crisp linens, warm cider in the fall. But if you stayed too long, you'd notice the cracks. The way Mom smiled a little too hard. The way my dad checked out whenever conflict appeared. And the way they always bent over backwards to praise my younger brother, Tyler. Still, when the call came, I didn't hesitate. My dad sounded hollow, smaller somehow, like his voice had fallen into a well. He said, "We're weeks away from losing the inn." I didn't know who else to call. Not, "We need you," not, "You're the one who can fix this," just panic, soaked in shame. I didn't ask questions. I just started packing. I sold my Boston condo, turned in my resignation at the hospitality group where I'd spent 26 years, and drove the 3 hours back to Willow Creek with my entire life crammed into the back of a Subaru. And as the familiar trees blurred past my window, I told myself over and over, this is where I'm needed. This is going to matter. This time, they'll see. When I pulled into the cracked gravel lot behind Whispering Pines, snow crunching under my tires, it looked even worse than I had imagined. Peeling paint, dead planters, a flickering porch light that buzzed like it was apologizing for existing. Inside, the lobby smelled like microwaved soup and mildew. There was a fake fern in the corner with more dust than green. And yet, I still loved it. That night, we sat around the dinner table. Me, my parents, and Tyler. He'd apparently been helping out with marketing, which I later learned meant posting vague, inspirational quotes on Instagram stories. I outlined my plan. Upgrade the booking system, revamp the rooms, retrain the staff, leverage my connections in Boston to get us featured in travel blogs. I even had ideas for a locally sourced winter menu. Tyler nodded vaguely through the whole thing, scrolling through his phone. My dad stared at his plate. My mom smiled tightly and said, "That all sounds ambitious." I felt it in my gut then, too. That quiet resistance, that buried doubt. But I smiled back. I thought, it's fine. They'll come around. Just wait till they see what I can do. I had no idea that this homecoming was also my funeral. The slow death of being seen, heard, and appreciated. I didn't know that saving the inn wouldn't save anything. Least of all, me. You know that feeling when you do something huge for someone and they act like you just ran an errand? That was my life for the next 6 months. I woke up before dawn every day, laced my boots, and went to war with the mess Whispering Pines had become. Outdated software, broken boilers, chipped tiles, apathetic staff. Every corner held a silent scream for help. I updated our reservation system from something that looked like it ran on dial-up to a sleek interface that could handle mobile bookings. I deep cleaned suites myself when the cleaning crew quit halfway through my first week. I hand-picked new linens, replaced every burnt-out light bulb, even curated Vermont-made soaps to give our rooms a luxury boutique feel. Every damn detail. I negotiated rates with local florists for fresh lobby arrangements and pitched feature articles to travel writers I'd met at industry expos in Boston. I knew what worked. I had lived in spreadsheets, trained teams, managed crises. But here, I was just helping out. They never said thank you. Once, I overheard my mom on the phone saying, "Danielle's doing what she can, bless her heart, but it's good Tyler's back. He's the one with real vision." Tyler. Vision. I nearly laughed out loud. His vision consisted of suggesting we add a hot chocolate bar in the lobby and start calling the guests legends in our welcome packets. He still wore his winter beanie indoors like a personality trait. He still used the word vibes unironically. Meanwhile, I was pulling 12-hour days and bleeding money, my money, into a business that wasn't mine, that had never been mine, even though I was the only one treating it like it was. At night, I'd lie awake in my childhood bedroom, now crammed with moving boxes, and stare at the cracked ceiling. I'd scroll through old emails from colleagues in Boston who still asked when I'd be back. I'd calculate how many months of savings I had left if the inn didn't start turning a profit. I'd remind myself why I came. Family, legacy, redemption. But the cracks were starting to show. Once, during a staff meeting I'd prepped for days, complete with printouts, visuals, and incentive programs, my mom interrupted me mid-sentence to ask if I'd remembered to order decaf for the guests. That same afternoon, Tyler barged into the lobby with a ring light and started filming a TikTok about ski-chic interiors. He accidentally knocked over a vase I spent 40 minutes arranging. I picked up the shards in silence. No one noticed the blood on my palm, and I think that's when it began to sink in. This wasn't just a temporary oversight. This wasn't them being distracted. This was a pattern, a choice. I had brought the house back from the edge. They were watching me rebuild it brick by brick and still handing him the blueprints. I wasn't building a future here. I was pouring myself into a black hole, and if I didn't stop, I was going to disappear inside it. The announcement came on a Thursday. I remember because I had just finished calculating our quarterly revenue increase, 54%, the best Whispering Pines had seen in almost a decade. I was planning to share the numbers at the staff meeting that evening to give everyone something to feel proud of. We'd come a long way. The rooms were finally booked out. Our TripAdvisor score had climbed from 3.2 to 4.6. Guests were emailing thank you notes. Staff morale was starting to lift. And then Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. She didn't even look up from stirring her tea when she said it. "Just a heads up, sweetheart. We'll be announcing Tyler as general manager tonight." The spoon clinked gently against the side of her cup. like punctuation. I blinked, thought maybe I'd heard wrong. Wait, what? She looked at me like I'd asked if Vermont still snowed in winter. Your father and I discussed it. Tyler has got that natural charisma. People respond to him. My throat tightened. But I'm the one running everything. She waved her hand, the same way she did when I tried to correct her grammar as a kid. You're very detail-oriented, Danielle. That's your strength. But you can't always see the bigger picture. Tyler's ideas bring a freshness we've been missing. Freshness. The man had once suggested we replace turn-down service with surprise pillow fortunes. That night, I stood in the back of the staff lounge as my dad read out the announcement in his usual halting tone. Tyler leaned against the wall, smug and casual, like he was about to headline a TED Talk on disruptive hospitality. So we're thrilled to have Tyler step into the general manager role. Danielle will continue overseeing operations and logistics, of course. Continue. As if I hadn't been doing all of it already. I looked around the room. A few staff clapped politely. Arlene, our head housekeeper, shot me a look, tight-lipped sympathy. She knew. They all knew. But nobody said a word. Tyler clapped for himself. Later, I asked him, just asked, what exactly he planned to do as GM. He shrugged. I'll handle vision, culture, guest engagement stuff. You know, the fun parts. I said nothing. Not because I had nothing to say, but because if I opened my mouth, I might have screamed. That night, I stayed late organizing vendor files. Around midnight, I found myself staring at the photo on the lobby wall. Mom and Dad in their 20s, standing proud in front of the inn on opening day. The frame was slightly crooked. I reached up to fix it, then stopped. Let it hang, I thought. It fits. I went upstairs, poured a glass of the cheap Merlot my mom keeps for guests who don't know better, and sat by the drafty window in my room, watching snow gather along the sill. I had done everything right, everything. And still, the crown went to the boy who played king. And I was expected to smile and carry the weight behind his throne. It was a Monday morning, frost still clinging to the windows, the kind that paints delicate veins across the glass like winter graffiti. I'd barely taken my coat off when I heard raised voices in the laundry corridor. Tyler and Arlene. I moved faster than I meant to, my boots echoing too loudly down the hall. By the time I rounded the corner, it was done. Arlene stood with her arms folded, face flushed deep pink, lips pressed tight to hold something back. Tyler stood 2 feet from her, hands stuffed in the pockets of his new parka, like this was a casual conversation and not what it was. She wasn't willing to adjust to the new system, he said when he saw me. You told me we needed to streamline schedules. I'm just making tough calls. He said it like he was reading from a business school brochure. I looked at Arlene, who'd been with the inn longer than any of us, who taught me how to fold sheets into hospital corners when I was 12, who once brought my mother ginger tea every day for a week during her bronchitis. She wasn't just staff, she was family. Our kind of family, the kind that shows up when it's messy. What happened? I asked her directly. She didn't speak, just shook her head once. Her chin quivered and she pressed her lips tighter. She refused to implement the new staggered shifts, Tyler cut in, said it would burn everyone out. I told her this isn't a democracy. Jesus, Tyler, I whispered. Did you seriously just say that to her? He smirked, as if it were a joke. Arlene turned to go. I touched her arm,
Please, wait in the break room. I'll come find you in a minute." She paused, then nodded, walked off with that tight dignity only people who've worked with their hands their whole lives understand. I turned on him. "You don't get to fire people without discussing it with me." He scoffed. "I'm the GM. Isn't that the point?" "No," I said, stepping closer, low enough so only he could hear me. "The point is, you don't destroy 15 years of loyalty for the sake of playing boss. You want to make hard calls? Earn the right first." He looked genuinely stunned for a beat, like no one had ever challenged him before. And maybe they hadn't. I spent the rest of that morning unraveling the mess, sitting with Arlene, apologizing, convincing her to stay. "Just a few more weeks," I said. "I'll fix it, I'll protect you." But even as I promised that, I could feel something shift. I couldn't protect her from a system that didn't value her, just like I couldn't protect myself. Not here. Later that day, I printed out a copy of our staff satisfaction survey from the past year, one of the things I'd introduced. I highlighted Arlene's line, "I finally feel like my work matters again." And then I sat alone in the maintenance shed and cried until I couldn't breathe. Not because of Tyler, because I knew I couldn't undo this, and because for the first time, I didn't want to try. I wasn't planning to drive that way. Honestly, I don't even know why I took the lakeside road home that evening. Maybe I needed quiet. Maybe I just wanted a route where the trees outnumbered the people. I'd been up since 5:30 a.m., fixed a broken radiator in room 11, mediated a screaming match between two new front desk hires, and convinced Arlene not to retire on the spot. I was bone tired, the kind of tired that doesn't go away with sleep. And that's when I saw it. A faded blue sign leaning slightly to the left, anchored into the snowbank with rusted stakes. "For sale, Lakeshore Lodge, zoned commercial, call for info." I slowed to a crawl. My heart kicked once in my chest, then again, harder. I pulled into the gravel lot, shifted into park, and just sat there, engine running, hands gripping the wheel. Lakeshore Lodge. That place had been the whisper of town gossip for years. Once a high-end retreat, it went bankrupt sometime after the 2011 season and never recovered. The old owners had let it rot from the inside out. Bad plumbing, mold, a failed restaurant renovation. I hadn't thought about it in forever. But sitting there, staring through my windshield at the sagging porch and the cracked clapboard siding, I saw it. Not what it was, what it could be. It had better views than Whispering Pines. Its back patio overlooked the lake like something out of a travel catalog. The location was closer to the cross-country ski trails and town square. And the bones, under all the neglect, I could see the bones of something special. Not corporate, not chain, just elevated, rooted, real. I turned off the engine and got out. Snow crunched under my boots. A wind tugged at my scarf, and I pulled it tighter as I walked to the porch. The front door was sealed with caution tape and a rusted padlock, but I didn't need to go inside. I could see it already. An open concept lobby with exposed beams, a stone fireplace, a quiet reading lounge overlooking the lake, heated floors, floor-to-ceiling windows with winter sunlight pouring in, a locally curated breakfast bar, no powdered eggs or steel Danish, custom robes, real hospitality, the kind that doesn't need to shout. And suddenly, I knew. I knew I couldn't keep fighting for a seat at a table where my chair would always be too small. I didn't cry. I didn't second guess. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled up my phone, and called the number on the sign. "Hi," I said, voice steady. I'm interested in Lakeshore Lodge. When can I see it? That night, I didn't go home to Whispering Pines. I drove past it, barely glanced at the windows glowing gold in the dark. I booked a room at a budget motel on the edge of town, sat on the edge of the scratchy bedspread, and opened my laptop. I started a new spreadsheet, titled it The Evergreen House Build Sheet. And for the first time in months, I felt something unfamiliar settle into my chest. Relief. From the outside, it probably looked reckless. I drained most of what I had left in savings, leveraged my credit score, called in favors I hadn't used in 20 years, took out a small business loan with terms that made my stomach flip. But it wasn't a leap. It was a strategy. Every inch of it. I didn't just want a prettier hotel. I wanted a better one, a smarter one, a place that didn't just offer a room, but refuge, warmth, recognition, something I'd been craving without realizing. I signed the papers 2 weeks later. Lakeshore Lodge was mine. I kept the name hidden at first, told everyone I was consulting, but word travels fast into small town, and faster when it involves real estate, especially that real estate. The same day the closing finalized, I got a call from my mother. I didn't answer. I was on a ladder, prying off rotted shutters with a crowbar. Tyler sent a text. "So what is this? Your revenge fantasy?" I deleted it without responding. The Evergreen House became my heartbeat. I hired local contractors, people I trusted. I redesigned the floor plan with the help of a retired architect I'd once mentored. I picked out every tile, every wood grain, every piece of furniture. If it didn't feel right in my hands, it didn't make the cut. I brought in renewable energy consultants and sourced reclaimed wood for the walls. I reimagined what luxury could look like in the middle of Vermont. Not gold-plated anything, but thoughtful touches, a heated gear room, herbal foot-soak stations for returning skiers, scent profiles inspired by local fir trees. The team came together like gravity. Sarah, one of the best front desk leads we'd had at Whispering Pines, walked out 2 weeks after Tyler moved breakfast to a vending machine. She called me the same day. "If you're building something real, I'm in." Arlene joined a month later, slow and cautious, but I saw the fire in her eyes the minute she stepped inside the gutted lobby. I've still got a few good years left in me. Might as well spend them where people matter. They came, not just because they believed in me, but because they were done being invisible too. Construction was chaos. I worked 18-hour days, slept in a folding cot in what would become Room 2, showered at the local gym. I kept a notebook by my bed with midnight scribbles, soundproofing between spa and kitchen, tray height for room service carts, better robe hooks. My hands blistered from paintbrushes, my back ached from hauling boxes, my feet swelled from standing too long, but I was alive in a way I hadn't been in years. And slowly, it started to bloom. 6 months after closing, the Evergreen House opened its doors. A soft launch, no fanfare, no press releases, just warm lighting, good wine, and a quiet buzz of curiosity from townspeople who'd peeked through windows for weeks. Our first guest wrote in the comment book, "It feels like the forest is hugging me." I pressed my palm against that page and closed the cover. Let them try to erase that.
The town didn't know what to do with me. At first, they whispered. Then, they judged. The Evergreen House became a magnet. Guests from out of state, influencers tagging us as a hidden gem, glowing write-ups in New England Living. Meanwhile, Whispering Pines started showing signs of rot. Literally, the guest reviews went from lukewarm to scathing. People complained about rude service, mildew in the bathrooms, frozen pipes, and suddenly, I wasn't Danielle Morgan, the woman who'd rescued her family's inn from collapse. I was Danielle Morgan, the daughter who turned against her own blood. Why would she open a hotel right down the road from her parents? I heard it in the post office. Soft but pointed. At the farmer's market, people would wave without making eye contact. My favorite coffee spot started taking extra long to fill my order. Small-town disapproval doesn't always show up as confrontation. Sometimes it's just cold shoulders and suddenly empty tables. Mom called again. Left a voicemail this time. "We just don't understand. Why would you do this to us?" As if my success was an attack. I didn't reply. What could I say? Because you made it clear I wasn't welcome in your success story, so I wrote my own. But the guilt sat heavy some days, like wet snow on the roof of my chest. I'd walk through the Evergreen House at night, check the temperature controls, peek into the quiet kitchen, breathe in the cedar and linen and eucalyptus. Everything was humming, but I still felt like I'd broken something sacred. I started hosting community nights, open mic poetry readings, live bluegrass, local art showcases. I offered discounted stays for townies in the off-season. I donated silent auction gift cards to school fundraisers. And some people softened. Others did not. My mom cornered me one Sunday after church. It had been years since I'd even seen her in person. She was wearing her hospitality smile, the one that looked more like a wince. She said, "Your father and I worry about how this looks. To the town. To the guests." I said, "Looks like what?" Even though I already knew. "Like you're competing with us. Like you're making a statement." I smiled, not kindly. "Mom, everything I have ever done has been interpreted as a statement." She didn't answer, just blinked, her jaw set. The next week, Whispering Pines slashed their nightly rates by 30%, a Hail Mary move to fill empty rooms. One of their servers quit mid-shift. Guests started calling us asking if we had availability instead. Sarah brought me coffee and said, "You're not destroying anything. You're revealing what was already broken." And I finally let myself believe it. I wasn't the villain. I was just visible now, successful. And for some people, especially the ones who only ever loved me small, that was the real betrayal. You can't please people who only like you when you're losing. So, I stopped trying. It happened just after the holidays, January, when the snow stacked up like punishment and the town moved slower, quieter. The Evergreen House was thriving, fully booked through Valentine's Day. Guests curled up by the fireplace, couples posted Instagram stories with our custom mugs, and even the local paper did a piece calling us a modern reinvention of Vermont hospitality. So when my parents showed up at my office unannounced, it felt like the weather had shifted indoors. They looked smaller somehow, standing there beneath the vaulted ceiling of the lobby I'd designed. My mother wore a fur-lined coat that looked 2 sizes too big. My dad clutched his gloves, eyes darting between the floor tiles like they were avoiding landmines. "Danielle," my mom said, voice tight, We need to talk." I motioned them inside, into my office, a space with warm lighting, forest green walls, and a window that framed the frozen lake like a painting. I offered them tea, they declined. My dad was the first to break. "We're in trouble," he said. "The inn's struggling. Reviews are bad, staff are leaving.
The bank, well, it's not looking good. I waited. He cleared his throat. We think it's time you come back, help your brother get things under control. And there it was. The invitation dressed up like a favor when really it was a lifeline with my name stitched into the rope. My mom leaned forward. We know things haven't always been fair, but you understand the business better than anyone. Tyler needs support. I set down my pen, looked at both of them. Really looked. They weren't cruel people, just blind, willfully, generationally. And they still didn't see it, even now. They weren't offering me respect. They were offering me janitorial duty. Come back and clean up his mess. I took a breath. I offered to help a year ago, I said, my voice calm. You didn't want me then. You gave Tyler a title I earned with my blood and savings. Now that things are falling apart, I'm suddenly valuable again. They didn't answer. I'm not coming back, I said. I'll consult if you want. I can recommend some systems, even help you find a proper GM, but I'm not going to fix what Tyler broke. That's not mine to fix anymore. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but for once, nothing came out. And God, the silence was beautiful. My father nodded slowly. He said, I understand, even though I wasn't sure he did. After they left, I sat alone for a long while. I watched the snow fall over the lake, soft and patient, and I felt it. The final thread between us stretched thin and finally snap. There was grief in that, but also freedom. Saying no to them made room for yes in the rest of my life. Yes to peace, yes to boundaries, yes to myself. I didn't owe them my exhaustion anymore. I didn't need to bleed just to be seen. I was done being their safety net. I was my own.
After that meeting with my parents, something shifted in me. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet clarity. Like a lamp that had been flickering finally snapped into full brightness. I stopped apologizing for saying no, for succeeding, for wanting things done right. I stopped justifying my decisions to people who had never asked Tyler to explain anything. I let my work speak. I let my silence carry more weight than any argument ever had. And my life began to expand in ways I hadn't let it before. I went hiking again, alone at first, then with guests who asked if I knew any secret trails. I rediscovered the lake's northern ridge, the one I used to sketch in college, and started bringing a thermos and notebook there on weekends. I bought a secondhand guitar from a kid at the farmer's market and started teaching myself chords again. Badly, but with joy. I called up my old roommate from Boston, Emily, the one whose birthday I'd missed 3 years in a row because of work emergencies. We talked for 2 hours, laughed until my side hurt. At the Evergreen House, I made space for the team to breathe. We introduced quiet shifts with fewer interruptions, offered staff therapy stipends, held weekly open floor meetings. Arlene started leading training seminars for new hires. Sarah created a guest experience manual so good, I forwarded it to 2 former colleagues in the industry. We were thriving, not just financially, humanly. And still, the whispers came sometimes, little echoes from town. She thinks she's better than them. She turned her back on her family. She got lucky. Let them talk. I used to explain myself into exhaustion. I used to rehearse conversations in the mirror, draft texts I'd never send. I'd bend into shapes I didn't recognize just to avoid being misunderstood. But I'd realized something. Some people want to misunderstand you. It gives them a story where they're the victim. Let them keep that story. I'm not in it anymore. One night, I sat on the floor of room 7, the one with the skylight. A storm had just passed, and the snow on the glass ceiling glittered in the moonlight like crushed diamonds. The room was empty, freshly turned, quiet. I leaned against the armchair and just breathed. Not to plan, not to worry, not to recover. Just to be. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't holding my breath waiting for someone to tell me I was enough. I already knew. That's the thing about building something yourself. No one can take it from you. They can copy it, criticize it, question it, but they can't own it. And they sure as hell can't define what it means. Only you can do that. And finally, I was. The Regional Hospitality Awards were held in a grand ballroom 2 towns over. Chandeliers, velvet drapes, jazz quartet in the corner. The kind of setting where small-town people dress like it's the Oscars, because for once, someone's watching. I hadn't planned on attending. We'd been nominated for Best New Boutique Stay, and I figured the nomination alone was enough. But Sarah insisted. So did Arlene. You deserve to be in the room when the praise is said out loud, not just whispered in hallways. So, I went. Wore a navy dress I hadn't touched in 5 years, the one from my final corporate banquet in Boston. I curled my hair, wore the earrings my sister had mailed me last Christmas, the ones I never told my mother about. The Evergreen House staff filled 2 tables. We laughed too loud, toasted too many times, and ate tiny appetizers we couldn't pronounce. I remember scanning the room, spotting former colleagues, rival hoteliers, a few travel writers I used to pitch to when I was still the sister. And then I saw them, my parents, sitting near the back. Mom's expression was unreadable. Dad nodded at me, a barely there gesture that still made my stomach knot. I didn't wave. I turned back toward the stage. When they announced us, the Evergreen House, as the winner, my breath caught. Not because I didn't expect it, but because suddenly every room I'd been passed over in, every meeting I wasn't invited to, every polite smile that dismissed my ideas, all of it evaporated into this one moment. I stood. The room blurred around the edges. My heels felt too high, my pulse too loud, but my hands were steady as I walked to the stage. I took the award, clear crystal etched in gold, felt heavier than it looked. "Thank you," I said, voice crackling slightly through the mic. This hotel was born out of exhaustion and hope. I built it with people who were told their best wasn't enough, who knew better. A pause. I looked out, eyes sweeping across my team. Sarah, beaming. Arlene, misty-eyed. And further back, my parents, both still. And maybe being underestimated is a kind of gift. It gives you the freedom to start over without permission. Scattered applause, nods. The kind of silence that isn't awkward, it's sacred. I left the stage lighter than when I'd climbed it. That night, I didn't seek my parents out. They didn't approach me, and that was fine. I celebrated with my team, posed for photos, spilled champagne on the carpet, and laughed until my face hurt. I didn't perform joy for anyone else. I simply lived it. It's wild, isn't it? How the very people you fight hardest to impress are often the ones least willing to see you. But that's the secret I learned the long, painful way. You don't need anyone's permission to take up space. You don't owe silence in exchange for survival. I built the Evergreen House as a second chance. Instead, it became a declaration. I am not difficult, I am discerning. I am not cold, I am focused. And I am not selfish for choosing peace over proximity. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between loyalty and self-worth? Tell me your story in the comments. I'll be reading every one. And if this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Not for the algorithm, but because maybe someone else out there is still waiting for the moment they say no more. Keep going. You're not alone.